Hi guys, welcome back to Eye of the Beholder, where we review the Dungeon & Dragon miniatures created by WOTC and WizKids in the 20-year span between 2003 and 2023. Today, we pick things back up with the H's, kicking off with Hippogriffs. Hippogriffs are another chimeric beast similar to griffins, but where griffins are hybrids of lions and eagles, hippogriffs have the body of horses. Smaller and less intelligent than griffins, which in some ways makes them even more highly prized as aerial steeds, if you can catch one. Reclusive and highly territorial, they are willing to fight to the death to protect home and hearth.
WOTC doesn't give us our first Hippogriff mini until the Blood War set of 2006. Called an Arcadian Hippogriff, it is the most horse-like of the Hippogriff minis, with only the wings, lower legs, and beak of an eagle. Posed rearing up on its hind legs, no doubt assisted by the halfway unfurled wings. Nothing special about the tan body, but the wings are marvelous. Dark brown fading to white with an extremely heavy dark wash for contrast. Score: Pain 18, Pose 16, Playability 16, Pizzazz 17 for a score of 67. Three years later, we get this Hippogriff in 2009's Monster Manual Dangerous Delve set. I like the pose. One foreleg raised, eagle head raised, and slightly tilting back as if sizing up its next meal. WOTC goes monochrome brown on this mini, with a slight brushing of lighter brown on the underwings for contrast and, incongruously, blue horns and tail tip. And while it's hard to make out in all the brown, the eyes and beak are really well done. Score: Paint 14, Pose 16, Playability 16, Pizzazz 16 for a score of 62. As WizKids is wont to do, their first offering of a flying beast generally has it, well, flying. This Hippogriff from 2017's Monster Menagerie 2 set is no exception. There's a lot to like about this one. Brown for the horse body and tail that matches the eagle's crest, white for the head, wings, and chest, and black tip yellow claws all work well together. The way it is mounted on the post, very sturdy by the way, has it tilted slightly downward as if it's in a dive. And it's our first uncommon Hippogriff, making it easier to get a flock, herd, whatever. I didn't see this one coming. Score: 100. Our final Hippogriff is another uncommon from the last set of 2023, Seas and Shores. This mini shares the same color palette as the previous miniature, with the exception of some darkening on the edges of the wings. This one is earthbound, posed with a slight head tilt to the left, wings comfortably furled over its back. I could easily see using this mini interchangeably with the last one, using the first to dive bomb the PCs, and switching to this one when it's time to fight up close. Score: Paint 25, Pose 18, Playability 25, Pizzazz 15 for a score of 83.
What demented mind came up with hook horrors? Well, they're from 1981's OG Feed Folio, which, if you thumb through that tome, you'll understand. They have the head of a vulture, the exoskeleton of a beetle, and wicked barbed hooks at the end of their arms like, well, nothing I'd want to run into. They prefer to attack their prey from ambush, using their acute sense of smell and echolocation, yep, like bats, to attack from the dark.
We get our first hook horror in 2004's Aberration set. It's pretty good for an early mini. There's a lot of detailing on the carapace, arms, and torso. I'm not sure what those goldish brown details around the nether regions are, nor do I need to know. Poses of standing its ground, one barbed hook raised high above its head, while the second is held low in reserve. Coloring is as you would expect from an underground creature, muted browns and grays, darkening to black. Score: Paint 15, pose 15, playability 13, pizzazz 14, for a score of 57. 4 years later, we get this Hook Horror Mini in 2008's Dungeons of Dread set, and he's definitely on the move. Pose leaning forward with feet positioned in full stride, hooked arms swinging as he closes on his prey. Again, we get great detailing on the gray body and brown carapace, but what really stands out are the barbed arms. I love the serrated outside edges of each one, while the sharply turned barbed hooks are just fun. See? Paint 19, pose 23, playability 17, pizzazz 25, for a score of 84. We get our only WizKids Hook Horror in 2015's Rage of Demons set, and they go a different way, with purple body, smooth dark brown carapace, gray lower legs and hooks, and a yellow beak and eyes. It also has something the other two don't. Note the 4 black spikes protruding from the body, a pair on each side of the torso. Aggressively posed with both hooks held high above its head, this one is the most battle-ready of the bunch. Score: Paint 20, Pose 17, Playability 17, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 69.
The Hydra, another beast born from Greek mythology, has the body of either a snake or a dragon, which you might not notice right away due to all the heads. Hydras come from anywhere from 4 to a dozen heads, with rumors of some beasts with even more. The best part, when you cut one off, 2 new ones grow in its place. Fun fact, Tiamat created a hybrid called a Draco Hydra. Your party is going to love it.
WOTC gives us our first Hydra in 2008's Dungeons of Dread set. It's called a fen hydra, which makes sense, as swamps are the creature's natural habitat. This one has a snake's body, green on top with a yellow underbelly. We also get a nice display of white fangs on 3 of the 4 heads. Posed rearing up in preparation of multiple strikes, I like how each head is spaced to give the other room to attack. It's pretty cool, at least until you see what's coming up. Score: Paint 14, Pose 18, Playability 15, Pizzazz 19, for a score of 66. Like this one, from WOTC's Swan Song 2010's Lords of Madness. Called a Hero Slayer Hydra, and I have no doubt it's earned its name. Its 5 heads are all contorted and twisted about its snake-like body, giving 360-degree protection from all attacks. Each head, white of fang and red of maw, are distinctly different, some with jaws wide open, others not so much. The glossy black body with orange underbelly is perfect, especially the scaling detailing of the underbelly. Let's face it, there's no way this one isn't getting a score of 100. Our only WizKids Hydra mini comes from, do I have to say it? 2020's Mythic Odyssey of Theros set. Meet Polokronos, World Eater, the special release miniature attached to the set. Gargantuan in size, its dragon body is set low to the ground, while its bladed tail rides high in preparation of a tail whip. 4 of its 5 heads face forward, while the 5th confronts a flank attack. Again, each face is different, and WizKids adds tongues to boot. I especially like the look of the lowest head, the long black claws and spikes on the legs, and the orange crests on all 5 heads, matching the spine running down the back. I can't not. Score: 100. Can I foreshadow or not? We get several premiere releases in 2022's Fizzband's Treasure Your Dragon set, but none so awesomely cool as this Draco Hydra. The blue-gray body is pedestrian, but it allows the colors of the heads to absolutely shine. This six-headed beast has 2 green, 2 white, 1 red, and 1 blue head, all creature correct for each dragon type. The very thick translucent stand allows for the miniature to be posed in flight, each head focused on different targets, while the 5-tipped tail is raised to strike like a flail. I gotta knock it a bit on playability. This monstrosity is just too powerful for all but the highest level adventuring parties, but score is Paint 25, Pose 25, Playability 20, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 95.
At first glance, the Commodon may be mistaken for a displacer beast until you notice the spotted leopard fur and, oh yeah, the 6 snake bodies protruding from the shoulders. Natives to the jungles of Cholt, they have a very effective hunting method. Put its target to sleep with his breath weapon, then eat. FYI, the snakeheads are poisonous too.
Given where it's from, of course our only Commodon mini comes from 2017's Tomb of Annihilation set. Poses of casually strolling through the jungle, albeit with all 6 snake heads up and alert. Someone did a lot of work painting the spotting on his tawny fur, which covers the entire torso and down to the paws. And while the snake's heads aren't particularly well detailed, the feline head is. Score: Paint 21, Pose 14, Playability 12, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 62.
Crenchars vaguely resemble large jungle cats, but with a strange yet terrifying ability to retract their skin from their face, revealing the skull and muscles underneath. This acts as a scare spell, sending prey into panic, and hopefully, easy pickings for the pride. Yes, Crenchars tend to assemble in small groups, led by a dominating male.
Our only Crenchar mini comes from 2007's Night Below set. Poses of preparing to spring, WOTC tries but ultimately fails to portray the creature with its face retracted. You can see the folds at the neck, but there's not enough color contrast. The head should have been all red of muscle and white of bone. Instead, we get a washed out pink that blends too well with the brown of the body. Being old and uncommon also makes it tough to get enough for a proper pride. Score: Paint 11, Pose 13, Playability 8, Pizzazz 12, for a score of 44.
Kruthiks are a weird hybrid between drake and insect, created by Tiefling wizards to use in their ongoing wars. They proved impossible to control, escaping their creators and thriving in the Underdark, becoming a huge threat to all subterranean civilizations and even spilling into the surface world. They are agents of chaos, overwhelming all they encounter with numbers, swarming their prey, slicing with their scythe-like arms and mandibles before moving on to their next target.
Since you never find Kruthiks alone, I've decided to review all the WOTC versions together. From 2005's Death Knell, we get a Kruthik hatchling. From 2007's Demon Web, we get the Kruthik Adult and Kruthik Hive Lord. And from 2009's Monster Manual Dangerous Delves, we get the Kruthik Young. All 4 are covered in the silvery chitin that acts as armor, but you can only see bits of the brown body underneath on the 2 larger versions. All their poses if attacking, most noticeably the Kruthik Adult. Interestingly, despite the book calling for 6 legs, all the WOTC versions only have 4. Scores: Kruthik Hatchling, Paint 12, Pose 12, Playability 14, Pizzazz 10, for a score of 48. Kruthik Adult, Paint 12, Pose 15, Playability 15, pizzazz 14 for a score of 56. Kruthic Hive Lord, paint 12, pose 17, playability 15, pizzazz 20 for a score of 64. And finally, Kruthic Young, paint 9, pose 12, playability 11, pizzazz 9 for a score of 41. WizKids goes a different way with their version of Kruthics, replacing the silver of the chitin with a blue-black and giving us the proper number of legs. Both WizKids versions, the common young Kruthic and the rare Kruthic adult, come in the same set, 2023 Sand and Stone. Both are mounted on a translucent stand to allow them to balance on their pointed limbs, spectacularly so for the adult. And while both display the same brown hide under their armor and the same snarling display of teeth, I'm really going to focus on just how awesome the adult mini is. Almost the size of the WOTC Hive Lord, the stand allows for the 6 limbs to really stand out, with the right foreleg stretching well beyond the base. The visage is equally impressive. Note how the tongue lolls out of its open maw. Score: Young Adult, young Kruthic, paint 17, pose 15, playability 15, pizzazz 16 for a score of 63. Kruthic Adult, paint 25, pose 25, playability 23, pizzazz 25 for a score of 98.
Lamias, yep, another Greek-inspired monster, are equal parts cruel and seductive who live to bring strife and suffering to others. In their true form, they have the head and torso of a beautiful woman, but the lower bodies of a beast, usually lion, but sometimes goat, deer, or even snake. They hide their monstrous forms with illusions, looking to seduce and then eat their mate as a post-coitus snack. In this case, the juice is definitely not worth the squeeze.
Of course, our first Lamia comes in 2020's Mythic Odysseys of Theros set. Called a Thought Render Lamia, she has an almost crystalline lion-like body. See how it sparkles. Also, note how the back legs and tails are translucent, perhaps indicating the beginning of an illusion. The front, though, is still pure Lamia, with a wonderfully hideous face, one of the best we've seen. Posed in a slight crouch as if stalking, this is one of the Theros minis that is playable in any setting. Score: paint 18, pose 14, playability 16, pizzazz 18 for a score of 66. Three years later, we get our second Lamia in 2023's Sand and Stone set. Posed in repose, her very leonine body is at rest with the tail curled forward. WizKids keeps it PG by clothing her torso with a tan vest with brown highlights that match the bracers, belt, and what looks like a saddle, but most assuredly isn't. Who would dare try to ride a Lamia, even if she would deign it? The facial detailing is beyond fantastic. The imperious look on her face, eyebrows arched and lips pursed. And damn, we even get a belly button. Score: paint 23, pose 14, playability 18, pizzazz 25 for a score of 80.
There's another version of a Lamia from the Feywild, but rather than half woman, half beast, these Lamias are actually swarms of scarab beetles that can form into a rough humanoid shape, then use illusion to appear as a beautiful woman. Their mere touch can drain life from their victim. Once dead, a new scarab beetle joins the swarm, adding the victim's thoughts and memories to the collective.
We get our only version of this type of Lamia in WotC's Dungeons of Dread set of 2008. Posed in mid-transformation, with her lower body and outstretched right arm comprised of the beetle swarm, and the upper torso, left arm, and head fully female. Clad in a red dress with a peekaboo bodice, she has what appears to be a dagger sheath on her belt and a tiara in her long brunette hair. Score: Paint 20, Pose 22, Playability 16, Pizzazz 19, for a score of 77.
Despite its bestial appearance, Leucrottas are exceptionally intelligent creatures who, unfortunately, are as cruel as they are smart. They tend to lair far from civilizations, using their intelligence to build effective traps and their abilities to mimic a wide range of sounds to lure their prey into them. They are also smart enough not to attack large, well-armed parties, but will happily attack a lone traveler or straggler, as human flesh is their favorite.
We get our only Leucrotta miniature in 2019's Volo and Mordenkainen's Foes set. Monochrome brown with yellow spots for eyes, and a bit of white for the fangs and black for the hooves is it for color. The pose does suggest some agitation, with the fangs bared and the long tail whipping about. If your PCs tend to wander some of the more uncivilized areas, this will make for a great wandering monster encounter. Score: Paint 11, Pose 13, Playability 13, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 50.
And that's it. We're done for now. Thanks as always for watching Eye of the Beholder. Please like and leave a comment. We'll pick things back up with the M's in our next video, starting with Manticores, which will be a week late as I'm off on a working vacation. Oh yeah, I promised a little something extra. Check this out.
You know, I've done the math. I have between 2003 and 2023, 47 complete sets. If you figure an average of, say, 50 minis a set, that means I have 2,350 individual miniatures. Now, you throw in your special releases and your one-offs, and then you say, oh, I don't know, quadruple that for the multiple doubles and triples and quadruples I have. That means I have close to 10,000 miniatures. If you're wondering how I keep track of them all, well, here it is. As you can see, I keep my smalls and minis in these compartmentalized boxes, which I have labeled on top what's in each box, and they all store in there quite nicely. For my larges and some mediums, they all are in each of these individual boxes. Again, you can see how I've got each box marked with what's in it. And if you pull one out at random, again, they're all just kind of piled in there. Now for the huge, they are all in these cardboard boxes. Total of 8 boxes, or is it 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, excuse me. Same thing, each box sealed, each box labeled for what's inside of it. And for the larger ones, or those just too cool to be not to be put away, I have what I call my dragon shelves. Here, as you can see, all the gargantuan and even larger minis are stacked one on top of the other. It's a pretty tight fit. I pretty much have them everywhere. So anyways, as always, I appreciate you watching my channel. See you back in 2 weeks when I get back from vacation.